reporter, so.
I'll go ahead and start too.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to start off saying I'm with Warren Kaplan at his home. The date is June 3rd. It is 12 p.m. And I first want to thank you for your time and letting me interview you today.
My pleasure.
And my first question is, tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
In the Bronx, in New York. And I came from a very poor family. We lived in a tenement, but we lived in the basement of the tenement. There were bars on the window so that people couldn't break in, but we could see their feet. And it was what's called a railroad layout, so that you have one big long hallway. Off of that is the kitchen, the living room, a bedroom, and another bedroom. And in my bedroom I have a brother and sister. They're twins. And that's where we lived. We had the bathroom was over there on that side, I remember. That's where we grew up. But you didn't know you were poor because the neighborhood was poor. So you don't know about these kinds of things. And an important element in my growing up was my mother, who believed in me. I was firstborn. And my father and I didn't get along really that well. So that if I did something bad, my mother would say, well, your father gets home. And sometimes he really did hit me. My mother would hit me too, but my father had a bigger hit. But that was the norm. You know, we had regular street games, you know, stickball, box ball, potsy, another one, Johnny on a jump or something like that. And marbles were a big thing for us. Marbles, immies, whatever you call them. But I was always good in school. As a kid, I had the regular problems, going to the bathroom. If I didn't go, I did what I had to do. And then the teacher said, okay, you raise your hand next time, you're going to the bathroom.
Where did you go to school at?
First school was PS 64, and I became a monitor. That goes up to grade 6. I became a monitor in grade 5, helping students to get into the building. And I like doing that. I like really helping people. It's just, you know, where that came from, I have no idea. But that's what I did. And my dad was in the Navy during World War II. Before that, he worked for my uncle, who was in material, cloth for making clothes. And he had connections with the mills, and everybody was kind of in, you might say, the black market. And then my dad got injured in the Navy, and so he was getting compensation from it, and he'd go to the hospital, the Veterans Hospital up at Kingsbridge Road. And he always seemed to go at Christmas time because they always gave him gifts for the wounded veterans. And that was about it. I mean, I never thought of having a car. I chipped in with a friend of mine. We bought a bicycle together to share. I think it ran us $10 or $15. I don't think it was $5. And because of where I lived in the basement, it was easy for me to keep and hold the bike. That was Jerry Goldfarb. That's the way I remember my childhood. I ran a lot. I liked running, and I ran cross country in high school. I got into one fight when I was with a kid, not in high school, that was in junior high, and one of my eye teeth, which is in the wrong direction, died and had to take it out. And so I did well in high school because of the teacher. I was running with bad kids, other bad kids. And because of that, I would be sent down to the Boys Dean. After the third or fourth time of being down at the Boys Dean, his name is Harry Schefter. Harry said, you know what, you're really a smart guy. I want you to, from now on, you go and stay in my class. Okay? And Harry taught English, and he wrote a book, 5 minutes a day of better spelling. And he also taught at night at NYU. And he taught me how to express myself in writing. And that's going to become important much later on. And then I got out of high school when I was 16. I wanted to go to West Point. My dream was to have a career where I can get a pension. Like my dad had thought, if he could have 10 kids, and each kid gives $10 to the house, he would have $100 a week. That would be his pension. We just had me and my twin brother and sister. And he wasn't really very good when it came to business. So that became a little bit of a philosophy later on when I went into business. Namely, how would my father approach a certain situation? And I said, well, we just got to do the opposite. Because if he failed, the opposite must be the right thing. And I went on to make a few shekels so in my time. But today I miss him because I was successful, or I am successful, and I would get along a lot better. I can understand, I think I could understand his frustrations a lot better. He went to night school, became a tool and die maker. He worked for Sperry Rand. He got fired because he was supposed to mill something to 1/10,000th of an inch, and it was only 1/500th or 1/1000th of an inch, and he didn't want to let it go. The inspector said, let it go, it's okay, it's okay. And he said, no, it's got to be this, because it was an important part, military part. And so they said, get rid of him. And he got rid of him. He drove taxi for a while also. I don't miss him as much like I miss my mother. I really got along extremely well with my mother. So now I'm in high school, and I graduate with honors, if you want to know. But I was having trouble. I couldn't make the Bronx High School of Science, and I didn't make Stuyvesant. I remember my pen was leaking all over the place. My finances were not the best, so I got a pen, but it leaked. In those days we had ink. In fact, in elementary school, I was the ink monitor. Go to desk to desk to desk, and you fill it up with ink for the students. Then I tried for West Point, but they said, no, you got to be 17 to get into West Point. So I went to City College. You get in, at that time, you got in based on grades and a test. You had to have at least an 85 high school average. My toughest class for me there was French, foreign language. I couldn't see how I could possibly make use of it. And I represented the school, William Howard Taft High School, on WNYC as a whiz kid. My strength being science and math were always my best. I remember making a big breakthrough in geometry. I was having a tough time, and all of a sudden, boom, it just clicked for me. And so it became a game. I look at it as a game. Even when I do now with Sudoku, it's a game, and I time myself to see how fast I can really do it. Okay, so now I'm in college, age of 16, and here's where I'm beginning to have a problem. All of a sudden, my grades go in the toilet. I'm not studying at home. Me and my parents were having a conflict. I was trying to be an adult, and they were looking at me still as a kid, a child. And so I would hang around the college instead of going homeward and doing homework. The other thing I liked was I became a reporter for that was also the name of the paper, the Reporter at college. This is daytime, okay? And I wrote a column called Dollars and Cents, cents being S-E-N-S-E. And I liked that. And I began to make friends with people who said, hey Warren, you ought to write this one up, or this stock, that stock. I was always fascinated with the stock market. I actually got involved when I was approximately 10 years old. I had some money because I worked in a bowling alley as a pin boy. Okay, of course I've been automated out by AMF in Brunswick, but I made money doing that. I made money delivering for a grocery, a local grocery. I made money delivering for a laundry store. So I was always like making money. And I also found out that Pepsi Cola was a public company. So I would buy a bottle of Pepsi feeling, boy, if I own that stock, I'm helping my own company, okay? My mother opened an account, or I opened an account under, it was Shirley Kaplan, custodian for Warren Kaplan. And we had something in those days called an MIP, monthly investment plan. And that's where you put in money as you have it. I think you couldn't put in less than $40. And you bought stocks. And my stocks were Con Edison, Sperry Rand instead of IBM, and American Telephone, because I like the dividend. IBM won, killed Sperry Rand. So then, okay, so I got that aside. Then in college, even in high school, I was working all the time. I remember working in a place called Rita's, which is 170th Street. And where I lived was between the elevated line and the subway. Subway was the Grand Concourse. You got used to hearing the subway, so I can sleep when it's noisy. I like to sleep sometimes with the TV on. And also, I could see the elevated line station before it would arrive at my station. And my game was to see that while I'm on the corner and then run to see how fast I can get up there and catch that train. And as a real young kid, I used to hang out at the Museum of Natural History. And I could squeeze in the exit. There's a revolving exit situation. And I could squeeze in between, boom, save a nickel. Okay, and then eventually it became a dime, 100% increase. So that was I didn't do well in college. Korean War was on, and I envisioned myself as being a hero. So I joined the Army. I had 2 years of ROTC. I'm now 18 years old, not really doing well in college at all. And I felt, in fact, if I completed the term, I smelled a bunch of F's coming around. F is not the curse word, the letter. You get letters, A, B, C, D, the letter F. So I went out and joined the Army. I joined the infantry because, like I said, I had visions of being a hero, Forty Murphy type thing. Because at ROTC, the enlistment guy should have given me a stripe. And I got nothing because I probably didn't tell him that I got 2 years ROTC. I don't remember. So I go in the Army, and it was really literally the first time I'm by myself without my parents, and I'm not going home. But I knew I had shelter, clothing, shelter, and food. So I was going to be taken care of. And that's what I explained to my mother, who wanted me not to go into service. You can get killed. And I said, no, And the reason I went in the Army is if I was in the Navy, I can't swim 1,000 miles, okay? That ship's going down, 1,000 mile swim, not my bag. And on the Air Force, your plane gets hit, you're going down. That's not so good either. But if I'm on the ground, even if an officer is an idiot, I can, take off. I know what I gotta do. So, I spent 2 years in the Army, and in the Army I was a little bit in business. I would lend money. I would watch the guys gambling, shooting crap. And I was known then that I would lend them money 5 for 4. So I lend you $4, you pay me back $5, and you got to put up security, which is a ring, the watches, wallets, something that you can sit. That goes in my locker, which was locked, obviously, I call it a locker. And I retained 2 guys, really big guys, to just watch and literally sit on my locker. Now, the other reason I took collateral was because in the Army, you could suddenly get called in the middle of the night, and they say, hey, you got to go to, I was in Fort Dix, New Jersey. You got to go to California. So, hey, I want to get paid, okay? And I had a nice, lucrative little business going there. So, then I went from Fort Dix, New Jersey to Fort Meade, Maryland, and I was still in the infantry, working behind tanks. And I had a fear now of tanks, because I envisioned myself getting crushed. But there again, when we go out on maneuvers, bivouacking maneuvers, I tented with a Polish kid from up in New York. And he was, big guy. So I would give him money and I said, go to the PX and pick up all the food, all the candy, and we'll sell it to everybody here. I'll give you half the profit. So now the sergeant knows about it, how we're going to get it back in town to get to the PX. So I said, you're a partner also. I made him a partner. So I got the sergeant and I got I don't remember his name, this guy who was my buddy. He comes back with candy, but he says, oh, I got ice cream. I said, ice cream? What, are you crazy? It's going to melt. We're bivouacking. There it is. So now I'm running around crazy. I got to get rid of this stuff as fast as I can, and I couldn't mark it up the way I was marking up candy. So I knew not to, to deal with him. He's a nice guy, but didn't have it. So then I really wanted to. I have a knack for breaking codes, and I'm in the infantry for about a year, and I'm up at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, and I was cleared for secret, not top secret, just low grade secret, and so they had me working on codes, because to me it was a game, it was a puzzle. A place called the Birdcage up there. But I really happened to like the infantry, and at first I didn't want to work there at all, but they didn't punish me. When I was originally back in Fort Dix, I was on KP, and so I got friendly with the cooks, and they showed me how to cook. I can cook for 50, 100 people if you want. So cooking for 1 or 2 is not my bag. So then I would sit there doing potatoes and doing whatever I was supposed to do. Did I enjoy myself in the Army? Heck yeah. I mean, you're young and only got into one fight there. There was a bully in the barracks, and nobody was in the barracks. And for some reason he was picking on me. And I just, you want to fight, we'll fight, okay? The only thing I had a fear of is you can get in trouble if you fight in the Army, okay? So, I remember we went into what's called the latrine area, we had our fight, and I didn't know if I should kill him or not, and I had him in what's called the headlock. You familiar with a headlock? Okay. And so I let him go. And And I said, the fight's over. Or something along that kind of a line. So I didn't kill him. I did go later on something called Prison Chaser. Okay, so these guys are in a stockade. They're soldiers, regular soldiers. They're in a stockade. And you got to take them out for work detail. And they give me what's called a carbine. These are World War II stuff. Instead of the big rifle, it's a much smaller rifle. So what happened, the rule was that if one of them escaped, you were going to do their time. And I'm not about to do anybody's time. Are you serious? So I would be playing with the, there's a bolt, playing with the bolt. At the end of the day, they reported they didn't want to go out with me. I make them too nervous, you know, because I let them know right off the bat, I'm not doing anybody's time. I'm a good shot. I really was. I was a sharpshooter. And I said, you know, don't do anything stupid, okay? And playing with the bolt was my way of giving them extra to the message. So they said, Warren, you're a prison chasing. We don't, I mean, these are guys who went AWOL. They didn't commit a crime. And, but I remember doing that. And then I met a guy there in the Army named Marvin Epstein. Marvin and I become real good friends. One reason is he had a car. I'd never had a car. I didn't really have a car until about 27 years old. You live in the city, you really don't need a car. So, Marvin and I got assigned to Fort Dix, and they were saving us to go fight the Russians instead of putting us on duty in Korea. So the actual fighting in Korea ended in '53. I would have been going to Korea in late '55, early '56. So, but they had, what do you call that zone? I don't know, like a war zone. No man's land or something. No offense, it's no person's lands in my book. So, and Marvin will become important to me in my life. And now I decided for some reason, you know what, I got to go back to school. Nobody in my family has ever got a college degree. You know, high school was pretty good. And I got out in September of '57. I kept thinking about reading up, and to boot, they kept saying, Warren, go to OCS, Officers Candidate School. And I could see there is a real difference between being an officer and being an enlisted person. So if this will become also important later on, has to do with my kids. You know, that both my children were in the service, in the Army. She didn't tell you that? Yeah. But my daughter became a paratrooper, and she was a second lieutenant. She's very strong. And my son, that's something else. We did, it was like the relationship with me and my dad, my son and I. And so the best solution for him was to go into service and get some separation, but that'll be later. Now, let's see, where am I? Oh, I get out of the service, I call a gal, Arlene Schwartz, I knew from school, you know, high school. And I said, hey, I'm out of the service, you know, any women around, you know? I don't know if we called them women in those days. But anyway, so he said, oh, I got one, I think you'll like her, right around the corner. Because I once dated a girl from Brooklyn, and where are you from?
I'm from Florida.
Oh, Florida, okay. Well, I'm in the Bronx, and for me to date a Brooklyn girl, and I'm doing the subway, you're looking at something like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning before I can get home on the subway, you know, dropping her off, even at midnight, 1 o'clock. And so to hear that there was a woman, a girl, female, around the corner, whoo! That was great news. So I go around the corner, and we set up the date. I don't remember if it was by telephone or not. my family didn't have a phone. My aunt and uncle lived above us, and they had a phone. So we used to, you know, get told, hey, there's a call for you, so we'd run upstairs to get to that phone. Although eventually we got what's called a party line. Are you familiar with the terminology party line? That's where two different families have the same phone number, and you pick up the phone when it rings, and if it's for the other people, then you let them do their talking. The bad thing is when they're on the phone and they yak, 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 you know, forever. Anyway, so right around the corner, that's terrific. We go out to, that night, to the 167th Street cafeteria, big cafeteria, and I think I treated, I'm not sure, to a cup of coffee. I like to watch my money. It's not that some people think I'm cheap. I'm very frugal, okay? And she's a good kisser. Then I found out she went to the Bronx High School of Science, and smartness in a woman is sexy to me, okay? And, you know, a killer figure. These little ones have terrific figures. So, not that the big ones don't, but this one, anyway. And an excellent kisser. Very aggressive. Aggressive. So, we, you know, set up for a date. What the dates were, I don't remember. If we went to the movie, and to not have a woman or the gal under obligation, we had something called Dutch treat. I don't know if you have that today. You do, okay, so a Dutch treat, you know, you pay for yourself, I pay for myself, fine. Her mother was dying of cancer at that time, and I finally met her mother in the hospital. Her name was Ruth, and Judy, when she was younger, had Orientalish type eyes, and her mother also. So I like Oriental look. When I introduced her, Judy, to my father and mother, you know, just like this type thing, not in any particular way, my father said, I think she's Eskimo. I said, no, at most she's half Eskimo. You know, she's not, I think she's from Mongolia. No, I think that's the background, that when the hordes from Mongolia came across and into Europe, that that family got caught, and women got raped, and anyway, I felt that was the gene. It was my own fantasy, okay? Then we dated, and I felt I was getting caught now in a such situation, a social situation. And I said, you know, how do I tell her? I like her. She's smart. She knows where I live. 'Cause I once dated a girl when I was in high school from a high-class area called Riverdale. I brought her to my house, and quite honestly, I was ashamed. I mean, I knew we were poor. I was pretty sure my dad had his pants on, you know, because instead of walking around the house in just shorts. So, but our furniture was totally uncoordinated. You have to live that thing to understand it, really. Okay, so Judy and I, we break up a little bit. Not a little bit. I said, I'm going to try to date other gals. And I called my friend Marvin Epstein. I said, Marvin, you know, I want to meet some other girls. And so Marvin set me up on a couple of dates. But I really liked Judy, okay? And then I had also figured out, at my time, we had roughly 5 to 5.5 billion people on the planet. Half are women that go on that basis. I know this is like a joke, but at birth anyway. So I have to pick one out of 2.5 billion, you know how hard that is? And that's speed dating in every sense of the word. So I started, going back to Judy, and then Marvin and I, in fact, had what we call the bachelor's apartment. We chipped in. We had some jobs that we were doing, honest jobs, with a payroll. And then Judy and I are around today getting ready for New Year's Eve. It's the week before. And sex is an important part to me, okay, of my life. So I said, hey, you want to get married? Because to me, that's the same thing. So, and she said, yeah, okay. All right. So we took a blood test, because you had to take a blood test. And I said, all right, why don't we go down to this place, Elkton, Maryland. In the Second World War, people went to Elkton, Maryland, because you didn't even have to take a blood test. You get married instantly. Judy didn't tell you this story? Oh, boy. Pity. But she tells it better than I do, from her point of view, too. And Marvin drives us down there. Marvin loved driving his car. We get down there, find out, I'm 21, that's okay, but Judy's only 20. We come out of the, so we can't get married without our parents' permission. So we come out of the building and a cab driver says, come over here. Okay. He said, you looking to get married? Yeah. He said, is there any problems? I'll take it. I said, well, she's underage, she's 20. He said, don't worry, I'll sign as a father and you get married. And right away I'm saying, well, hey, this is not a bad idea, because if this marriage isn't going to work out, I'm out, okay? And I don't have to even, for some reason I've always had a fear of alimony. So, but Judy didn't think that was very right, So I kind of agreed with her, and we went back to New York, and we called up different, New Year's Eve is coming about. Oh, and we stayed at Marvin's house. Marvin at that time was living with his mother, big woman. So we're gonna stay there overnight. So she puts me in one room and puts a bed in between, and Judy's in a different room. Oh boy. And the next day we were going to get married. We couldn't find a rabbi that would marry us because of Judy's age. And from a legal point of view, we can get married in New York. And finally we found a rabbi who would do the ceremony. And my parents were out of town. I must have some gypsy blood in me or something, because my parents loved traveling. Okay, they get in the car, and like my uncle Alfred, he was in the army. When he got out of the army, he got hungry for deli. So he gets my mother and my aunt. Those are both his sisters. And he says, come on, let's go get some deli. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. They get in the car. And the next thing you know, they don't come home. The two men, my father and my uncle, are worried, start calling the cops, what could have happened to them. And finally they get a phone call from my uncle, and hey, we just went out for deli. Where are you? Down in Miami. Wolfies. So, that's the kind of family I come from. And there's a lot of stories I can tell you about that family, but I don't know if I wanted public record. So anyway, Judy and I finally find a rabbi, and I think my aunt came, and her father came. The mother's dead. Oh, that was another thing. In the Jewish religion, you can't have music for 1 year after the death. So her mother died, and if we had a wedding, for 1 year you can't have music. The other thing was, I think we went around and found out that the catering places would run roughly $25 a couple, and the best we would get from our family was about $15. So we'd be losing $10 per couple for the wedding. That don't work by me. So, anyway, Judy has a brother named Larry, very young kid now, 6 years old, maybe 7. And he says, oh, it's a wedding, where's all the people? There was nobody there, it's just her father was there. And he kept saying, oh, get a wedding, I'll make it real nice, because he had catering ability. And I wasn't really looking to wait. You know, there was some good prizes here. So we got married, and that turned out to be December 31. And to boot, it was an extra bonus. Judy was working and I was not. And so Judy would be able to take me as a deduction for that year for being married one day. Okay, so we get married and we go to Woolman Memorial ice skating. And from there we went to a hotel, the Woolman Memorial, the Wellington Hotel. Unfortunately, like an idiot, I drank too much and got sick and threw up. And so what I wanted to do for New Year's did not work out for me. Then we had to get an apartment. We got an apartment in Queens. And then after about 3 or 4 days, I didn't have a job, like I said. Judy said, you got to go to work. You know, there's 2 of us on this, the lease and everything. So I didn't know really what I wanted to do, and she said, you can't sleep till 8, 9, 10 o'clock. 8 o'clock is okay, but till 9, 10 o'clock. You got to get a job. And I said, well, by the time I get there, all the time the jobs are filled. She said, get up early. Ah, okay. This is going to not work out so well. Then I had part of my family was quite wealthy, and they liked me a lot. And I think it was my Aunt Martha or something like that. It's not really my aunt, it's my mother's aunt, was dying. And I went and visited with them. And while I was there, I met a stockbroker. Their stockbroker. I would normally say family stockbroker, but we weren't in it. I mean, when I had my MIPs, I was using Merrill Lynch in those days. Be that as it may, he said, you know, if you want to come down, have lunch, you know, I'll be happy to treat you. So I go downtown, Chrysler Building, I meet him, I get lunch. As soon as you eat, when I hear the word free, bing, you know, my antenna is up. So I met with him, and he said, why don't you join this firm, Reynolds and Company? So I meet with the manager. It was a Thursday, and he says, yeah, you're with that part of the family is called the Karens. You're part of the Karens, and everybody speaks highly of you, you're hired. Come to work on Monday. I go in Monday, and he says, can't hire you. I said, what are you talking about? You really don't have the money. I was the beyond poor section of that family, the Karens. So I said, hey, you told me you hired me. I turned down 2 jobs that I could have had. Okay, and now you know, I turned them down. I can't go back. So I said, all right. Minimum wage. I forgot what the minimum wage was. I think it came out to about $40 a week. But I was good. I learned a lot. Plus, I was in with an office with a lot of smart people. And one of my duties was to take the New York Stock Exchange test for the sons of rich kids, okay, so that they would pass. And that was one of my big jobs. Then there were other things, you know, I think it'd take too long to go over everything. But I was taught investment banking by a guy named Morty Globus. Morty was a genius on what's called construction of a capital, how to set up a capitalization of a company. And I had gone back to school, graduated who's who in all A's, you know, in those last 2 years or 3 years at night. I went back at night so I could work during the day. And then I won the David something Green Scholarship for advanced studies in the field of finance. And I started on my master's. I lasted about 1 year, and I had an argument on a philosophy with one professor. He was head of investments at New York Life. And in an immature way, I said, you know what? I don't want to say the way we say it in New York, but the hell with it. Okay, and I went on to make my first $1 million. Okay, which becomes another part of the problem. How much information do you want?
Well,
We didn't have kids for 7 years. I found out my uncle also thought that I had knocked Judy up, and that's why we got that fast elopement marriage, which we didn't. Judy and I agreed we don't want any kids. Okay, and so for 7 years we didn't have kids. And then I got despondent. I made all this money and I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. And so I said, hey, you want some kids, you know, just 2, you know. And Judy, in her enthusiasm, oh, sure, okay. Okay, so we had 1, that was the boy, and then we had a girl. And there were times where I made $1 million and I would lose about 900,000, just about back to zero, and then I would make it again, lose it again. Well, Judy and I really got along extremely well in all aspects, as you know, of our life. And I never thought about getting divorced, or I didn't have to think about playing around in that sense, of a hidden sense. Okay. So I told you our lifestyle at that time. That went on for about 20 years, and I loved it. You want to know? I'm sorry I didn't do even more. So, what else would you like to know? Let's see. You want to know where we moved? One time we almost lost everything, and it was during the Vietnam period, and I had called the stock wrong. And when I came home, my son Ronald, he said, "What did you bring me?" And here, the house was going to be gone, and I felt that was like, it's fantastic. I'm going to lose the house, and this kid wants to know what I brought him home. You know, what toy, kind of thing. We did not lose the house. I got very active in politics also. My house became a meeting place for Democrats and Republicans to negotiate their deals. We checked it out for bugging. I was in investment banking at that time. And I became a financial advisor to various Congress people, congressional people, and also in the state of New York, Murray Schwartz was the senator, became his advisor. Lester Wolf in Congress in Washington. And my neighbor was Mario Cuomo. Mario was having a problem in the Democratic Club. Money was missing. So we said, would you take it over? Take over my club? And I said, okay. But I said, you know, I'm a business guy. I don't know. I'm not into the political part. So they brought in somebody because I didn't care if you were black or white. What I cared about is, can you do the job? And on my first day in the office, a guy comes in, a lawyer, puts a paper bag on the desk, and he wanted a judgeship. So I found out that the going price for judgeship is $25K at that time, cash. Right away, my paranoia is also up. Like, am I being set up? in any case, I don't like that, okay? If you got the ability, you don't have to pay me off, okay? You know, I got any opening, you got the job. You know, provided I like you in terms of how you think and stuff of that nature, if you talk about judgeship, a person. So, the word went out, you know, don't offer Warren anything because he's not going to take it. And they brought in a different guy who was once a fire chief. He took care of the political end. You know, we got to have so many blacks and so many whites, and I don't, like I said, I pick people based on people. And so I had a problem with that. And if they try to, they never forced me, but the people they may bring in for an interview would suddenly be one color. And I said, no, it is both colors. Okay, black and white. And that probably toward my feeling, then it becomes like that with women. I don't care if you're a male or a female, you do the job. And if I can buy a female for 80 cents on the dollar, are you serious? At that time, 62 cents. Are you kidding? Women all around, I couldn't care less. Okay, it was more than okay with me. I'm buying, and not only that, but in the business, I ran companies also. I found that women worked a lot better. I was also sensitive to their motherhood. Later on, this will be later on, Judy had built up a toy company, which became public. She told you that, right? And we had a playroom for the kids. You know, you could bring the kids here. Just like, even now I have somebody help me on Saturdays, and she has a dog. I said, you bring the dog in. First of all, I love dogs. And in fact, when we moved to Ocala, I was a director of the ASPCA up there. But then they said, oh, you got to take a dog home. I said, I got nobody to take care of dogs. So, but another thing I don't like is begging. I don't like not-for-profit places. I don't like politicians who are all the time, and that's their job, sucking for money. I don't like, there's something wrong there, in my opinion. So, so I'm not a real giver in that sense. Like up there, the spouse abuse people needed help, and they needed beds. So they were looking for a donation from me and Judy. And I said, you know, tell you what, we'll buy the beds, and I'll give you the beds. But I'm not going to give you money to buy the beds, because first of all, I know I have a real talent, it turns out, in negotiating and getting the right price, which is one of the reasons I love going overseas. You know, you're haggling all the time. And so that's what I did up in New York. We also had some lavish parties. We had a real nice house. And it became known as a place for other people to meet other people. And I had certain people, you know what I mean, that had cash and such. I would not handle that. Nobody ever forced me, but we were all friends. Also that, you know, like my doctors were also Italian. You know, and Lucy, that's the female doctor, great cook. We used to go to the country house. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I was going to ask, when did you and Judith become interested in advocating for women's and LGBT rights?
I can't pinpoint the date because I've always been fair. I go to the movies a lot, and I used to be a daydreamer, that's what they called me. And, you know, I could put myself into that situation. And I don't like anybody picking on anybody. I don't like bullies, all right? And if you're going to pick on a woman, I'm very pro-LGBT also. I know it's wrong. And so I would hire women, and if some guy was gay, or the woman is a lesbian, I don't really care. It's not, tell me how you're gonna do my job that I need done, and do it well, okay? So, it would have to go all the way back to my childhood. You know, I loved the Lone Ranger in my time. I love heroes. Like I said, Eddie Murphy when I was going in the army. John Wayne, another hero. And in fact, the bad thing is, if you look at the old movies of the 30s and 40s, they smoked a lot. I smoked a lot. So when I was 13, I got the right to smoke. Okay, and then in 1982, my daughter, who's a runner, raced me from Judy's warehouse to the house. There was no contest. She killed me. And I said, this was my 1000th time for sure, I quit. You know, you quit at the end. This is going to be the last pack of cigarettes. You're going to quit. It doesn't. There's another pack. But when my daughter beat me in a race, I knew I had to give it up. And so that's what I did. I gave it up. Yeah, I don't have a specific date. It was just something that I learned. You pick people based on people. And I mean, my biggest influence would be my mother then. I don't know, maybe she told me you pick people based on people. That's what I did.
Could you tell me about the women's professional baseball team that you started with Judith? Called
No, I didn't start. Judy.
Oh.
I'm sorry. We're up in Ocala.
Okay, how did it start?
Okay, we're up in Ocala, we lived there, and The League of Its Own had come out as a movie. And then we saw an ad in the paper that there was going to be a women's professional baseball team. So I said, hey Judy, let's buy the franchise, you know, and you know, let's give the gals a chance. Even today, I don't know why a woman can't compete in a professional baseball game. Some of these gals, you don't want to meet in the alley, they'll beat the shit out of you. But they, you know, they were baseball talented. And Judy got a good manager. Rollins College, though, didn't want to have the women playing baseball. So where other baseball fields were charging nothing or 50 bucks, Rollins charged Judy $900 a game. And I didn't know who to complain. We lived in Ocala, and it was an Orlando team that we funded. So Rollins was apparently prejudiced against the ladies playing professional baseball. And then the season started. I had a quad bypass. In my family, the males die young, you know, like 55, 56. You know, we breed and then you die. So I had a quad bypass, and I just got home from the hospital, 1995. And Judy says, you know, we're going to have our first game. I'd like you to be the announcer. I love baseball. Okay, I lived right near the Yankee Stadium, and I used to hustle at the stadium selling souvenirs and such. So I said, Judy, I just can't do it. But I really like Judy a lot. I hate to say the word love for some reason, but you know, and I don't like to disappoint her. So I don't know, but if I went and I had to hold my chest, in those days, 1995, getting a bypass was a more tricky matter, and including the pain from it. And they break the bones, and they have to then put the bones back together with screws and such. You know, to get to the heart, they have to break the chest bones. So, but Judy began to really learn about baseball, you know, which I was happy about. That's second base. That's first base. So, that's shortstop. And I became the announcer for her, slowly. So that's like really, she had it because we were paying $900 to Rollins per game. We racked up a bill of about $30,000, where the other teams were paying like maybe $2,000, we're $38,000, $2,000, And I didn't think of filing any charges or anything like that against Ron. We had the money, but it was a crazy waste. And I said, you know, Judy, that's not fair. She said, well, I'm going to consider it my, like golf. Guys join the golf club, you know, for $5,000, whatever, and then they're playing, and this is my golf. So I said, okay. Another time, when we were married, I went to own great horses, trotters. Some of my friends said, Warren, we can't get fingerprinted. You can get fingerprinted. You can own the horse, okay? So I owned the horses on behalf of my friends, really. So one day, one of the horses got pregnant, that wasn't supposed to be pregnant. They said, do me a favor, go up there, take a look around, tell me what you think. So I went up there, and the guys weren't taking care of the horses correctly, and so I come back down to New York, I meet with my friends again, I tell them, those horses aren't being taken care of, you know, you got fine looking horses and everything, and so I said, okay, that's enough, we'll take care of it. The trainer disappeared. Mystical. And the horses then got sold, so I didn't have to take care of that. But what I liked about the whole thing was I would sit in the owner's box when I go to the racetrack, okay? I liked that a lot. And my name would be in the thing as the owner. The bad thing was, everybody felt trotters were fixed. I'm not saying they weren't, but I was not in on it, okay? And everybody's, Warren, is your horse going to win tonight? I don't know. Oh, you know. You know. No, I don't know. Yeah, you just tell me, okay? I got to make some money, all right? I don't know. And I didn't know, okay? And I remember going out with a couple, a friend of mine, Jerry Etlinger, and his wife, Joan. And in the owner's box, we're sitting in the owner's box. And Joan wants to bet on a horse. And she says, I want to bet on that gray horse because I can see it when it goes around the track. And my friend Jerry, who was he was a gambling addict, said, no, you don't want to bet on that horse. I'll put down $2 on that horse. And I'm thinking to myself, Jerry, $2, are you nuts? You know, for $2. So Jerry then goes back with me to buy have you ever gone to a racetrack? You know, you buy the ticket. And to prove that Jerry is smart, he buys a winning ticket on all the horses, okay? Except for her $2 ticket on the gray horse. We get back, you know what's going to happen. I don't know if it was 10 to 1, 20 to 1, whatever. The damn horse wins, of course, the race. And Joan and I get my tickets to go, Judy liked that horse too. So I said, here's cash it in. And Joan says to Jerry, all right, give me the ticket, I'll go with Judy to cash it in. Oh boy. She takes off on him like unreal, you know. You spit this, and he was willing to give her the money, of course, that she would have collected because the horse won. But I just had to laugh because it's so stupid to do something stupid like that. And so if Judy wants something, I always say yes, okay? There's no reason to say no. I always know that someplace along the line I'm going to die. Oh, I figured it'd be 100. And actually I wasn't, I was very good. I figured I wanted to get past that 55, 56 thing. So my brother's dead, he died. My father died around the same age. And same thing with the heart. So I remember that story, and but so like I said, I really liked the trotting horses. And my friends once came into me and said they had these muni bonds. Muni bonds are bearer bonds. You have the bond, You know what a bond is? Okay. And you turn it in, you get your cash. And these guys, they had $1 million worth of bonds. And they come to my office, hey Warren, how you doing? Okay, what's up? They said, listen, we got these bearer bonds from Jersey. I said, and? We'd like you to take care of it. You're in there for a certain percentage. And I said, oh guys, come on, you know I love you. But we just don't do that, okay? I'm not even in the bond business. I'm an investment banker. We do stocks. Don't get me involved with stocks though. But like, because I had a different friend of mine do, stocks. But they never bothered me in any way. I was never pressured in any way that I had to do something. Another time, you know, if you want stories, is when the Treasury Department came into my investment banking office. And he said, Mr. Kaplan, yeah, you're counterfeiting. I quick go over all the little schemes I do, and I said, no, I don't counterfeit. And they show me this. I love stamp collecting, which is a whole part of my history and travel and geography. I was excellent in geography. So I replicated the space stamp the size of this table, not the whole table, but easily from here up. You know, I had my brother-in-law take the picture, he's a photographer, and I was able to get it printed. And we're selling it to museums, you know, Judy's company. And I had started a company called Stamp Art. We were going to photograph stamps. Well, apparently at that time, not apparently, at that time, it turned out it was illegal to print or duplicate a stamp, just like at that time, cash also. You couldn't make cash. So if you ever watch old movies, you'll see that the cash transaction is not cash like they do today. Today it's okay to do. So that's the time the Treasury Department came in, told me I was counterfeiting. And as one of my friends said, oh, Warren, you beat another rabbit. I said, oh, so they let me, here was the deal, that I can liquidate the posters. I didn't have to burn them. Because if he told me at first, he said, you got to destroy them. And right away, the numbers are in my head. What are you kidding me or something? Am I going to lose that money? Which the next step is, how do I get it sold so that these guys don't know about it? But they said, okay, finish selling that. I told them, we're selling it to the museums, to the planetariums. It's for the kids, okay? That's another thing. When we started selling to museums, you can't say control, we influenced the price. The thing was for the gift shops to offer the products to the kids that go to museums at reasonable prices. Otherwise, the museums didn't know how to buy, so they're paying $5 and they're selling it for 10. I could sell it to them for $2 instead of 5, but I wanted to retail it for no more than 4, even $3. All right, especially to kids. So in fact, it was up to me. I would have had adult price, kids price, up to the age of 13 or whatever. So, that came from my own background, because I used to hang out a lot, you know, sneak in the subway, take the train down to the Museum of Natural History in New York. The museums in those days were free. And, you know, the different animals, I was real good at learning different animals. And the zoos, stuff like that. My dad used to take me to Bronx Zoo, because his mother lived near that area. So we would go there. There's where the trolleys go to sleep. It was where the trolley cars go into a big building. So then we go see my grandmother, who taught me to eat pasta with ketchup. And she would make my clothes. She made me military clothes. And but when she would dump on my mother's mother, Nellie, my father's mother's Jenny. When Jenny would dump on Nellie, I didn't like that at all, because I got along with Nellie. Nellie was tough, And she became also my first client when I became a stockbroker. And you don't lose any money with Nellie. I don't mean a penny. I'm a half a penny. You don't lose. Well, you're a dead person, okay? I can tell you all kinds of stories about Nellie, but, and how my family works. Nellie had 5 kids. The kid that was nice would get his name on the bond, the savings bond. And if you weren't nice, when a bond got redeemed, you're at the bottom of the list. And so one of the plans my father had was to hang out there until Nellie would die, and then he could get all his money finally, because he died before Nellie died. Told you, my dad didn't have great plans. The concepts were right, but he did it wrong. So, anyway, that's some of the stories. I lose track of where I am unless I make real notes.
Well, you've answered every question that I had on my list, pretty much. I wasn't sure if I was going to ask you one more question, and I don't know if it should be what has been the highlight of your life so far, or if you would just like to tell me something that maybe that you would like to add before our interview concludes.
Well, yeah, I think it's somewhat important to understand a relationship with Judy and I. And like I said, we were swingers in the 60s and 70s. Then what happened was this HIV started to come around, and we had moved to Florida in 1980. So we didn't know the clubs, we didn't know the people. But I feel that open marriages can become a very important ingredient, because you're not always having sex with the same person. So you get different, it's like, you know, like different food, okay? You're not gonna eat steak every single, and steak is great, okay? But every night, same steak, I don't know, you know? Even if there's a little variety in the steak, you can make it a barbecue, you could roast it, or whatever you do with steaks, broil it, and because I feel that's an important secret to why we've been married 60 years. When the HIV started up, and all I knew was people, at first I thought it was just gay people, but then I found out that it was straights also. And we pretty much hung with the same group of swingers in New York. You know, everybody was an executive. You really look forward to Friday and Saturday, because, you know, you're gonna, it's an exciting thing. I love sex like you wouldn't believe.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you and to interview you, and I thank you so much for your time.
Oh, that's okay. But Judy's really the star. And I never had a problem putting Judy first. It just, you know, one of the reasons I really like doing my stock market trading is because I don't need to talk to anybody. I sit in the room, I got my computers, I make my judgment call, I in effect bet my money, and I really like building up companies as an investment banker. I must have been in about somewhere between 50 and 100 different deals. I knew 2 things. One, I'm creating jobs, and I'm creating products. And that would be helpful to people. The other thing is also, when Judy started her company up in Ocala, and the minimum wage at that time in Florida was about $6, $7 an hour, had a policy. No one in that firm gets less than 10. Okay? You know, like, you know, warehouse people would be willing to work for less. We wouldn't allow it. Judy built a gym for them. I told you about the playroom for the kids. There were showers in there. There were a lot of activities. We enjoy making money, but not, how do I say it, not at the expense of others, okay? And Judy's much more generous. You know, Judy's the one who funded the, whatever it is she funded over at UCF, the women's chair or something, you know about it? A seat, studies, women's studies? Okay, you're familiar with that. Now, up in Ocala, oh, she funded a library. Both of us are really into books a lot. And so they put a plaque up and she gave them, I don't know, 30, 40 grand. And I donated my movies to them. I like movies. So I had a movie collection and I gave it to them. That was when it was CFCC, which is the Central Florida Community College. They didn't have a college at that time. They have a college now. It's been changed. So, in my own way, I like helping people. Like, you want to know, we try to help Planned Parenthood here. And then you get something crazy like Alabama, where incest, you got to carry a kid to term, and it's rape. I can't believe rape. People, anyone who thinks rape is a sexual, it's not. It's not sexual. It's rape. You're violating a person. You know, certain things we know, or I know, is wrong. Rape is not good. Greed is good, no, but rape is not good. I'm only kidding about greed. Okay, any other questions you really have?
No, I think I reached the end of my list, but I thank you again so much for talking to me
Oh, my
today.
pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
I hope it all works out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna put this together. I'll let you know whenever
Okay, now,
it's in.
you can shut that off and I'm going to ask questions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll stop it.